The skies over Baghdad, a chaotic, terrifying mess of fire and steel. Down below, troops were yelling into their radios. "We're pinned down. We need that air support now." Their lives hung on the thunderous roar of close air support. And up above, Captain Kim Campbell, callsign KC, was at the controls of her A-10 Warthog, a machine built for one thing: protecting those soldiers. But on April 7th, 2003, the hunter became the hunted. A sudden, violent impact. Shrapnel everywhere. Her mighty aircraft was badly hit. Warning lights flashed. Hydraulics gone. She might have screamed to herself. She was losing control. Hundreds of holes had turned her airframe into Swiss cheese. A critical decision had to be made, and fast. Eject over hostile Baghdad, straight into enemy hands, or try the impossible. Fly a crippled, barely responding war machine for an hour back to safety. For Captain Campbell, the choice, though terrifying, was clear. She thought, "I'm not giving up my ship. Not yet." This is the story of Colonel Kim K.C. Campbell, a pilot who stared down doubt, danger, and the very laws of flight to become a legend in the United States Air Force. Imagine the scene back then. Female fighter pilots were still a rare sight. Someone somewhere probably muttered, "A woman in a Warthog. We'll see about that." Just carving out a place in the tough world of combat aviation took incredible grit. And the A-10 Thunderbolt II, better known as the Warthog, well, that's no ordinary plane. It's a flying tank, built to take a beating and dish one out, a true symbol of rugged power. To some, the thought of a woman not just flying, but mastering this beast, might have seemed a long shot. Yet Kim Campbell didn't just fly the A-10, she became one with it. It's a story of skill, courage, and a will that just wouldn't break. Her journey stretched over 24 years of service, with an incredible 1,800 flying hours, 375 of those in the heat of combat. She flew 100 combat missions over Iraq and Afghanistan, growing from a young wingman. Perhaps hearing in her headset, "KC, stick close, watch and learn," as she navigated the deadly dance of air-to-ground combat, to a respected flight lead and instructor, guiding the next generation of A-10 pilots. This isn't just about one pilot's amazing feat of flying. It's about smashing expectations, about unwavering bravery when facing death, and about how one person, through sheer toughness, can redefine what's possible. She didn't just fly. She dominated, proving that skill doesn't care about gender, and courage knows no limits, especially when you're strapped into a machine as tough as its pilot. The call sign, KC, for Killer Chick, wasn't just handed to her. It was earned, etched into Air Force history by acts of valor that still inspire today. Her squadron mates might have said, "She's a killer chick in that cockpit, absolutely fearless and precise." Getting into the cockpit of an A-10 Warthog isn't exactly a walk in the park. You need brains to handle complex systems, reflexes like a cat, and a spirit that actually thrives under pressure. For Kim Campbell, the pull of the skies, the challenge of military flying, was something she just couldn't ignore. We don't know exactly what first sparked her interest, but you can imagine the kind of drive it took to aim for such an unconventional and demanding career. At a time when fighter jet cockpits were mostly filled by men, just choosing this path was a quiet act of defiance, a real statement. Someone might have even asked her, "Are you sure this is what you want, Campbell? It's not an easy road, especially for you." Deciding to become a U.S. Air Force officer, and a pilot at that, means signing up for a relentless cycle of training and testing. The dream of flying quickly meets the tough reality of hard academics, physical challenges, and intense competition for those prized pilot slots. Every hopeful pilot faces these hurdles, but for women back then, there might have been an extra layer of scrutiny, an unspoken pressure to constantly prove they belonged, that they weren't just good, but exceptional. "You'll have to be twice as good," a mentor might have advised. Campbell, wanting to fly combat aircraft, and specifically the A-10 says a lot about her. The Warthog isn't some sleek, glamorous fighter built for fancy dogfights. It's a gritty, down-in-the-dirt close air support machine. Its pilots fly low and slow, right into the most dangerous airspace, taking on enemy ground forces to protect their own troops. It takes a special kind of courage, a willingness to fly straight into enemy fire, often when there's zero room for error. This was the world Kim Campbell chose, perhaps thinking, if I'm going to fly, I want to be where it matters most. Her early training must have been a trial by fire, designed to filter out anyone who didn't have the right stuff. Instructors probably barked, "Think you've got what it takes. Prove it." From initial flight screening to specialized pilot training, every step is a test. Learning to fly, navigate, understand weather, aerodynamics, and aircraft systems, all while living under strict military discipline. It shapes a person. And then came the assignment, the A-10 Thunderbolt IA. That meant even more intense training, learning everything about this legendary aircraft. Its beastly GAU-8 Avenger cannon, its arsenal of missiles and bombs, and most importantly, its famous toughness. She wasn't just learning to fly a plane. She was learning to become a weapon, a guardian angel for soldiers on the ground. This call to adventure was a deep commitment to a life of service, skill, and constant danger, a path she took on with the kind of resolve that would later define her career. The A-10 Thunderbolt IA, the Warthog. This plane exists because of a very specific, very brutal need: to support ground troops in the thick of it. It's not pretty. It's not fast. Instead, it's a masterpiece of function, a flying tank built around a massive gun. And that gun, the GAU-8 Avenger, is a 7-barrel Gatling cannon that spits out 30mm depleted uranium shells at nearly 4,000 rounds per minute. It's BRRRT sound. That's salvation for troops under fire who might be desperately radioing. Send in the hogs. It's a death sentence for enemy armor. But the A-10 is more than just its cannon. It can carry a huge load of bombs, rockets, and missiles, making it a threat to all sorts of targets. But what really makes the Warthog special, and what became so crucial in Kim Campbell's story, is its incredible ability to survive. The pilot sits in a 1,200-pound titanium bathtub that can take direct hits from armor-piercing rounds. Its flight controls have double redundant hydraulic systems, plus a mechanical backup. What happens if both hydraulic systems fail? A trainee might ask. The answer: you fly it with muscle, pure muscle. That means even if the hydraulics get shot to pieces, the pilot can still, theoretically, fly the plane. The A-10 is designed to fly with one engine gone, half its tail missing, one elevator shot off, and even with significant damage to a wing. It's a machine built to take a beating and bring its pilot home. This was the aircraft Kim Campbell set out to master. Her training to become an A-10 pilot would have pushed her to her absolute limits, physically and mentally. Countless hours in simulators, drilling emergency procedures. Engine fire, left side. What do you do, Campbell? An instructor would demand. Practicing weapons delivery and mastering low-level flight. Then, the real deal, strapping into the Warthog, feeling its raw power and learning to control it. She would have learned to work closely with Joint Terminal Attack Controllers, JTACs, on the ground. The guys who guide the A-10s to their targets, their voices urgent in her ears. Target is 200 meters, danger close. Often in chaotic, fast-changing combat situations. As a young wingman, Campbell would have flown alongside more experienced flight leads, learning the ins and outs of combat, watching, and sharpening her skills under their guidance. KC, form up on my wing. We're going in, her lead might say. Those early missions, whether over the rugged mountains of Afghanistan or the deserts of Iraq, were her proving grounds. Every flight hour, every sortie, built her experience. She was working in an environment where precision was everything, and mistakes could be catastrophic, not just for her, but for the ground troops counting on her. It was during this time, through her skill, her bravery, and her absolute professionalism, that she earned the respect of her peers and her superiors. The nickname KC, for Killer Chick, came from this respect. Someone probably exclaimed after a particularly daring mission, "Man, she's a killer chick with that cannon." It wasn't a casual or demeaning nickname. In the tough, male-dominated world of fighter pilots, it was a badge of honor. It meant she wasn't just competent, she was formidable. It showed she had the aggression, the skill, and the cool head under pressure that marked an exceptional combat pilot. She wasn't just flying the Warthog. She was embodying its spirit, tough, resilient, and utterly dependable when everything was on the line. Her career progressed steadily, marked by a growing confidence that came from successfully navigating some of the most dangerous skies on Earth, always learning, always pushing herself, and cementing her reputation as a pilot you could count on when lives were at stake. Spring 2003. The invasion of Iraq was in full swing. For A-10 pilots like Captain Kim Campbell, this meant flying mission after mission, deep into enemy territory. The A-10's main job: close air support, a dangerous dance performed at low altitudes, often right in the face of enemy anti-aircraft guns, AAA, and surface-to-air missiles, SAMs. Every single mission was a calculated risk, a flight into a deadly arena where ground troops, like those near Baghdad, were desperately radioing. "We need air support. We're taking heavy casualties." On April 7, 2003, Captain Campbell was on one such mission, providing close air support to American ground forces locked in a heavy firefight. The city was a hornet's nest of Iraqi resistance, and the airspace above was lethal. Flying with her flight lead, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Dick Turner, Campbell piloted her A-10, call sign Whiskey Kilo 3, towards the target zone. The ground troops were pinned down, taking intense fire, and their survival hinged on the Warthogs. As she maneuvered to hit enemy positions, the sky around her exploded. Tracers from anti-aircraft guns lit up the air, a deadly web reaching for her plane. Then, a jarring thud, a violent shudder that ripped through the entire aircraft. "Hit, I'm hit," she likely transmitted. Her A-10 was damaged. Warning lights blazed across her console, a chorus of alarms screaming for attention. The aircraft, famous for its toughness, was wounded, maybe critically. Campbell's training kicked in instantly. She started assessing the damage. What her instruments were telling her, and how the aircraft felt, was bad news. Status report, KC. Turner would have demanded over the radio. The hit was serious. She'd later find out just how extensive the damage was. Hundreds of holes riddled the fuselage and tail. A massive hole, the size of a football, was punched clean through the horizontal stabilizers at the back. And most critically, the enemy fire had crippled her primary hydraulic systems. "I've lost hydraulics, both systems," she reported. Without hydraulics, controlling a heavy, powerful jet like the A-10 is a monumental physical struggle. Standard procedure for such catastrophic damage, especially over a heavily defended enemy capital: probably eject. The risks of trying to fly a crippled aircraft were huge. But the risks of bailing out over Baghdad, into enemy hands, were just as terrifying, if not more so. "I thought about ejecting," Campbell later said, "but that didn't seem like a great idea over Baghdad." In that split second, with her aircraft bucking and unresponsive, facing a life-or-death choice, her courage and quick thinking took over. With her main flight controls failing, Captain Campbell made the incredibly brave and difficult decision to switch to manual reversion mode. Going to manual reversion, she'd have informed Turner, her voice strained. "This is an emergency backup in the A-10, designed for exactly this kind of nightmare, but it's notoriously hard to use. In manual reversion, the pilot is essentially flying by brute force, physically wrestling the control surfaces with cables and pulleys, no hydraulic help at all. The controls are incredibly heavy, demanding enormous strength and stamina, like trying to steer a runaway truck with no power steering. Every movement of the stick and rudders took everything she had. The aircraft was barely controllable, fighting her every second. Her flight lead, Lieutenant Colonel Turner, was vital. He expertly flew his own A-10 to get a visual on her damaged plane, relaying information. "Casey, you've got significant damage to your tail, but she's still flying. I'm with you," he calmly radioed, offering steady guidance. His voice was a lifeline, a voice of experience in a moment of pure crisis. Together, they started the agonizingly slow and dangerous journey back toward friendly territory. "Thankfully, I got the jet into our backup emergency system and started the trip home," Campbell said. Granted, that was still an hour-long flight. For nearly an hour, Kim Campbell battled the mangled Warthog. Every minute was a fight against failing systems and sheer physical exhaustion. The aircraft yawed and pitched wildly. "Easy, KC. Keep her steady." Turner might have coached. Just keeping it level and pointed in the right direction required constant, strenuous effort. She had to predict the aircraft's sluggish, delayed responses, basically relearning to fly on the spot, under the most extreme pressure you can imagine. Below her, hostile territory. Ahead, the distant hope of safety at Al-Jaber Air Base in Kuwait. Her life, and the fate of her aircraft, hung by a thread, depending entirely on her skill, her strength, and her refusal to give up. This was the ultimate trial by fire, a moment that would test every bit of her training and courage. That hour-long flight from the hell over Baghdad to the relative safety of Al-Jaber Air Base felt like an eternity for Captain Kim Campbell. Every single minute was a display of her incredible flying skills and pure grit as she fought her crippled A-10 Warthog. Flying in manual reversion, with zero hydraulic help, the aircraft felt less like a precision tool and more like a wild animal trying to throw her off. But Campbell held on, her focus absolute, her determination unbreakable, guided by the calm voice of her flight lead, Lieutenant Colonel Turner, who might have been saying, "You're doing great, KC. Almost there. Keep it coming." When Al-Jaber finally appeared, a new set of problems cropped up. Landing a perfectly healthy A-10 takes skill. Landing one with hundreds of holes, a damaged tail, and no hydraulics. That was bordering on impossible. The controls were rough and demanded immense physical effort. "Tower, this is Whiskey Kilo 3, declaring an emergency. Coming in with severe battle damage, manual reversion, sheet of transmitted." There was no margin for error. One bad move on landing could mean a catastrophic crash, turning a heroic effort into a tragic end. With the airfield's emergency crews on high alert, Captain Campbell lined up her wounded Warthog for the final approach. She fought the controls, making tiny, exhausting adjustments to keep the aircraft stable and on the right path. The touchdown, when it came, was a miracle of skill and control. Despite the massive damage and the wrecked flight systems, she brought the A-10 down safely. The ground crew might have let out a collective gasp of relief and awe. The sight that greeted the ground crews was mind-blowing. The Warthog was battered almost beyond belief, a testament to how intense the fight had been and the incredible beating it had taken. Lieutenant Colonel Mike Millen, the chief of safety for the 332nd Air Expeditionary Wing at the time, was just floored by what Campbell had done. He declared, his voice full of admiration, "Kim landed that jet with no hydraulics better than I land the A-10 daily with all systems operational." That was the highest praise, an admission from a seasoned pilot of just how brilliant her flying had been. The immediate reward was survival, against all odds. But the true rewards were much bigger. For her extraordinary courage, amazing skill, and unwavering determination, in the face of extreme danger, Captain Kim Campbell was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. This prestigious medal is one of the Air Force's highest honors, given for acts of heroism or incredible achievement in flight. It was formal recognition of what everyone who knew the story already understood. Kim Campbell had pulled off something almost superhuman. Beyond the medal, the reward was the deep respect she earned from her peers, her superiors, and the entire aviation world. Her actions on April 7, 2003, became an instant legend. She hadn't just saved a multi-million-dollar aircraft. She had shown the incredible resilience of both the A-10 Warthog and the human spirit. If anyone had ever doubted a woman's ability to handle combat flying, or to master a machine as demanding as the A-10, Kim Campbell's actions provided a clear, undeniable answer. She had faced the ultimate test and come out not just victorious, but as an icon of bravery and skill. The sword she seized wasn't just control of her damaged plane, but a legacy that would inspire pilots for generations to come. Did Colonel Campbell's story inspire you? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found it compelling and subscribe for more incredible stories. She didn't just fly. She soared, leaving an unforgettable trail of courage across the pages of aviation history.